Hi, this is Ashish R. Bidekar, and welcome to my podcast, The ARB Show. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Paula. Paula is the CEO and co founder of Gulbadan Talkies and its subsidiary Marathi language content brands, Bharatiya Digital Party, also called as BhaDiPa, uh, BhaDiPa, and Vishay Khol. She is also a writer and director, with her most recent work being the hit Marathi web series Shantit Kranti on Sony Live. For context for international audience, Marathi is the official language of the Western Indian state Maharashtra, and Mumbai, formerly called Bombay, is the capital of Maharashtra. And it's also very interesting and inspirational to have Paula contributing so much for Marathi language and Maharashtrian culture. As one of the first Marathi content brands founded in 2016, BhaDiPa has played an influential role in leading the regional digital entertainment market. In 2018, BhaDiPa revived the Marathi stand-up comedy scene with really great shows as well. They produced the hit web series Shantit Kranti as well as the critically acclaimed Pandu and Once a Year. BhaDiPa has become a voice of young Maharashtrians and created an ecosystem of over 3 million loyal followers. Over to you, Paula. Do share your life journey and your vision for BhaDiPa and Gulbadan Talkies.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashish. It's lovely to meet you and speak with you on call and see your face. Thanks for asking me to come on the podcast. It's been an interesting 7 years now since we started BhaDiPa, more than 7 years. And when I first came to India, I'm originally from Vancouver, Canada. And I first came to India in 2012 to research the Indian film industry. I, for the first time, learned that there were regional languages in the country. I couldn't have told you if Hindi was the same as Punjabi, or if Punjabi spoke Hindi, or what was going on with the world in India. I was completely clueless. And I landed in Chennai, and I immediately realized that people are speaking a totally different language. They have totally different food. They're speaking Tamil, they're having, dosa and idli, and I had no idea how to eat it. That was the beginning of my eyes opening up and realizing what is the real potential of India as a market and India's entertainment industry. The reason I'm still in India today, more than 12 years later, is because I just saw the potential over here. I was really impressed with what was happening in the film industry, the different film industries. I thought that, coming from Canada, which is relatively government subsidized as a market for films, I thought that working in Indian films would be more exciting because it's mostly private equity. And, if you hustle, you can, try and reach somewhere. So for me, that was really exciting. And in that journey, I ended up meeting my two co-founders in BhaDiPa, Bharatiya Digital Party. We first started opening a production company called Gulbadan Talkies, which is sort of the parent company, umbrella company of everything that we do. And my co-founders are Sarang, Sathaye, who is a Maharashtrian from Pune, and Anusha and Nandakumar, who is a Tamilian from Pune. So both of these people and I, for a couple of years, we're trying to develop shows, we were trying to develop films, and a lot of the work we were developing was in the Marathi language. But at that time, there was no OTT platform. The film industry, honestly, it's very similar to the Marathi film industry of today, where it's the same people kind of making films with the same stars. And we just could not get a foot in the door. We couldn't get an opportunity. A lot of people said that they liked our stuff, but there was no market for it. They didn't believe that young people or any audiences really would be interested in what we had to make. So it was in 2015 that we saw the Viral Fever TVF speaking about how they had just made this show called Permanent Roommates, and pictures which had gone, as probably some of the first the first Hindi English web series in India. They just put it on YouTube and they got brands to come in and sponsor it rather than waiting for a producer to come in and finance it. And they did it themselves with their marketing knowledge. And we thought, hey, if they can do it, so can we. And we got the idea that, let's start a Marathi language YouTube channel. And that was the birth of Bharatiya Digital Party, BhaDiPa as we know it. And after that, we made the business plan, we started growing and saw an amazing response from the Marathi community. A lot of young Maharashtrians within India and internationally really appreciated the different formats that we were playing with. We worked a lot with like family-friendly, relatable content. Our shows like I and Me, hit home across all age groups. Shows like Casting Couch with Ame and Nipun were a totally different take on a celebrity interview, which Maharashtrians hadn't seen before. And I think that was really that and us being the first Marathi YouTube channel was what really kind of cemented our place in the Marathi zeitgeist, pop culture zeitgeist that's going on right now. So I thought it was exciting that you asked me to come in and talk about what are 5 opportunities happening in Marathi entertainment, because that's exactly what we've been looking at for the last 7-8 years. It's just been looking at all of these opportunities that are out there and seeing that nobody else is exploring them. No one's taking these things up. And we've tried to do what we can with our means. And we're hoping to scale up the business soon so that we can, take on some of these new opportunities ourselves. But it's a huge market. Now, being from Canada, I come from a country of 33 million people. And it's such a small population that when I came to India and we started talking about, we're going to start a Marathi YouTube channel, people who would come to us and say, oh, isn't it a little bit of a small market? Why don't you just go for Hindi? You'll get the whole country. My answer to them was always, it's not a small market. 100 million people speak Marathi. That is 3 times the size of my country. And you have countries like Germany, Portugal, Italy. These are all countries with their own entertainment industries as well. So if they can have their own language market, why can't Marathi? So that for us was where the real opportunity lay in Marathi, is that nobody else was really taking it seriously. And we took it seriously first when it came to digital entertainment. And now, as we discuss, I'm really excited to kind of tell you about all the other things that are open.
Great and excellent. And also, as I said earlier, I'm a fan. I mean, I and Me series as well as, Casting Couch and all the BhaDiPa production. It's family favorites, right? And in fact, as I said, the entire family was quite excited that I'm having this podcast interview with you. So great. So as we discussed, we have the format where the guest talks about the top 5 areas or top 5 tips or observations or insights in a specific domain of their expertise. And given your focus and now expertise in Marathi entertainment, it would be great if you could talk about top 5 opportunities in the Marathi entertainment space. That would be really useful for the audience. Over to you, Paula.
My pleasure. Yeah. This is a space where I am constantly being amazed at all the things people are not doing. So the Marathi industry is it's one of those very interesting entertainment markets where nobody has really quite figured out exactly what do people want and what are they going to spend their money on. And as I go and talk about all of these 5 opportunities, I just want to put out one disclaimer first, which is for all of the business people who have told me, and many people have told me this, and maybe some of you watching might be thinking this if you're familiar with Marathi. The number one reason I am told to not do anything is because people say Marathi people won't pay. They say that Marathi people don't like to spend money, and because of that, any investment into a Marathi business or something which is high value, Maharashtrians would rather not pay for it. And for this, I call bullshit. So, Marathi culture and pop culture history has such an amazing reputation. It's come out with some of the most internationally awarded films. It's even nationally given extremely popular films. We have artists like Lata Mangeshkar and an Ajay Atul who have crossed over into multiple languages, whose work is, people may not even know them by name, but they will know them by the song. We have even historical figures like Apula Deshpande, Vijay Tendulkar from the theater side. These are such giants in Marathi culture that my analogy is, it's not that Marathi people won't pay, but Marathi people are spoiled for high quality entertainment. So if you are a single malt drinker and you end up going out to meet your friends at the local pub, the local bar, or wherever you want to go, and you open up the menu and you see that there's no single malt whiskey. There's only like some cheap like Black Dog or something like that, and wine, and maybe some beer, gin, some cocktails. If you love single malt, are you going to spend your money on the cheap whiskey, or would you rather have something else? And that for me is what a Marathi audience is like.
Got it.
You would rather consume something in a different language than watch something bad in your mother tongue. Because Maharashtrians are not going to support Marathi only because it's a Marathi language. And that is a perception problem which I totally want to knock out of the way immediately. Because Maharashtrians are extremely globalized. They listen to K-pop. They live in the US. They travel internationally. They are exposed to everything, and with the internet, there's no limits to, what they watch, whether it be Game of Thrones, whether it be Narcos, Spanish shows like Money Heist, German shows, they'll watch everything if it's good.
Exactly.
So, with that, disclaimer, these are my 5 top opportunities in Marathi.
Right.
The number one opportunity, or rather the 5th one, which I feel is the most obvious, which people are kind of doing, but not doing well enough, in my opinion, is the OTT streaming business. And there are a couple of Marathi language OTT premium platforms. There is Planet Marathi. There is One Digital, I think is the name. And there are, I think, a few others which have, sort of halfway launched and then fallen back and failed before launching as well. There was a lot of things declared, but not a lot of things actually made it out. And apart from that, there are, Indian streaming platforms who, out of which, 20 Indian streaming platforms that we have, there's only 2 which are actively commissioning Marathi language shows, and that is Sony Live and Jio Cinema. There you might find Marathi shows on Z5, on MX Player, and you'll find the films on Netflix and Amazon, but they are not. commissioning those shows from the platforms. They're acquiring them, or they are from early days where they had a Marathi Entertainment department, which they've shut down. So like Z5, they shut down their Marathi wing.
Okay.
So that's the context. What the problem I see is that with the Marathi entertainment industry in general, the producers who invest in it are generally not looking at it with a long-term vision. Or the long-term vision is not considering an overall healthy industry, but the long-term vision is very much what's the most I can get out of this right now for myself. And when it comes to platforms, like a Planet Marathi, one of the biggest problems that I've seen is the consistency. So Planet Marathi in the last 1 year has only released, I think, 1 or 2 OTT shows, out of which one we've produced. For the last couple of years, they were, sponsoring award shows and Filmfare Marathi and things like that. And they were always doing good with films. But when they launched their OTT platform, the first year they went full out, and then it just suddenly stopped. And they've announced now that they're doing Planet Bharat, which is a totally new business. But I feel that even the Marathi side was not fully executed to the best it could have been. So that is one thing for the Marathi side of things. But when it comes to the Indian OTT platforms, a lot of them entered the Indian market from abroad. They came in from America, like a Netflix. They entered in and they tried to basically hire everybody from the television world and hire them and bring them into OTT. But that would have worked in America because they had, sorry, 1 second. Just got a call. So that might have worked in America because they had premium television like HBO before Netflix entered the market. But in India, we directly went from daily soaps to Netflix. So the talent and the programming teams, either they've come from hardcore television background or they've come from a very corporate background. And there's not a lot of people in the programming departments who want to take risks because these are very nice, high-paying corporate jobs. And they don't want to get fired, basically, for doing something wrong. So they typically go for whatever's tried and true. And what is tried and true is number one, Hindi. Of course, they all launched with Hindi. And now the biggest markets for them are the South Indian language markets.
Right.
So we've got Tamil, we have Telugu, we have Kannada, we have Malayalam. And out of these 4 languages, Telugu is the same market size as Marathi in terms of people who speak that language.
Got it.
Malayalam is an even smaller market. Less people speak Malayali than Marathi. But they are generally kind of lumped in together in this South Indian languages group because people kind of think that South Indian audiences will cross languages and watch that. And they also believe that Hindi-speaking audiences will very happily watch a South language show or film, especially after COVID, when Bollywood had a very bad year after COVID and all of these South Indian films started becoming blockbusters across the country. That changed the palette of the Indian audience. However, there are many other language markets like Marathi, like Bengali, like Punjabi, which have had very, very less investment by these platforms, and not for any strategic reason. It just is that, in my opinion, it's too much work, too much risk to try and build out something. And all of these platforms have their headquarters in Mumbai. And very few Maharashtrians and people from these regional language areas are actually working there. So it's all about location, it's about convenience, it's about a lot of different things. But I feel that if somebody came into the Marathi OTT space, whether it be a multiple language platform like a Sony Live, or whether it's a Marathi language platform specifically, if that business plan is executed right, if that strategy is correct, I feel like there's a huge Marathi audience who would be willing to pay money to watch that content.
Fantastic. So that's a very valid point, and just I would like to draw some parallels. So if you look at Marathi theater, right, it's it's one of the early and oldest theater traditions in India. So even now, the only thing which limits the Marathi growth of Marathi theater is theaters per se, right? Availability of theaters. So you would see most of the theater shows are there in Mumbai and Pune, right? And the price tickets are pretty premium, right? So as you rightly mentioned, for premium content, people are ready to pay. So that's a valid observation. And secondly, would you say that any support from, say, government of Maharashtra or so, from the state government, can help in this Marathi content, kind of a government push or financial push? Would that be something which would kind of really help in some way? Because as you rightly mentioned, it's a opportunity waiting to be discovered, right? And you are one of the early pioneers who have actually done it, right? Taken the risk and created something magical. So what do you feel about that?
I feel that if the government would want to support Marathi content, which it does, it already does support it, it would need to be explored in a different way than it is currently. And I'll get into this later, when we talk about one of the next opportunities. But the Marathi government does, the Maharashtra government does have subsidies for films, and they do have these kind of programs in place. But as I'll get into that bit later about why it's not necessarily helping if you're just directly doing cash handouts.
Okay.
I feel like the Maharashtra government could do other things, perhaps, like help represent Marathi content on an international level. I feel like that is something which could definitely help if the government were to invest in helping distributors like a PVR or someone like that increase the number of screens which are there in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That would also be a big help. But I don't believe that, say, a direct handout would be the right solution. So there's definitely ways to support. But I think ultimately they, as the government, they would also have to think about the overall long-term health of the industry and not about individual projects.
Got it. That's a great observation. What in your view would be the second insight or the second tip you would say or your observation about the Marathi film industry or Marathi entertainment industry?
Marathi entertainment industry, I feel it's not directly entertainment, it's entertainment adjacent, but I feel artificial intelligence and language learning models is one area where if we get the right amount of investment, we can see a lot of quick progress, especially when it comes to the Marathi language. We have companies who are already currently investing. We have, of course, a platform like Google. They've heavily invested into increasing their understanding of dialects across India for different languages. However, it's Google. It's a massive company, and Indian regional languages are never necessarily going to be their first priority. And on top of that, we also have organizations like AI for Bharat. AI for Bharat, I think it's an IIT Madras funded program, and they're trying to increase Indian vernacular language, machine learning. And they have some people hired for the Marathi language, but again, it's sort of an open government subsidized research project to try and develop it so that India doesn't fall behind on the vernacular language and regional language space when it comes to AI. However, if there is somebody who is very good with tech and understands AI on a deep level, I really feel that focused on building a AI for Marathi language comprehension and speaking is going to do wonders for the entertainment industry and Marathi entertainment as well. One of the big reasons why Marathi doesn't necessarily reach out is because it's expensive to dub in multiple languages. And, people don't know necessarily where their film is going to travel because it can go all over the world. But if you are one by one dubbing each and every language, it can be extremely expensive getting that translated. So automatically dubbing, automated subtitles if you don't want to watch dubbed versions. I feel like these are things which will really help Marathi entertainment reach out. And of course, if you have, I don't really want to support this side of the flip side of the AI thing, but of course, once you have the language comprehension and you plug in all of the wealth of amazing Marathi entertainment out there, I'm sure that you can get some interesting output as well in terms of Marathi writing, in terms of ideas. There's enough stuff if you put it in and say, write me a historical, powada about XYZ.
Yeah.
It would be great to see, an AI come back with a powada in Marathi.
Yeah, or have an episode of BhaDiPa on with some maybe in a historical setting or maybe in a science fictional setting, right? The sky's the limit.
Yeah, I'm all for that kind of use of AI. I think it can open up a lot of doors with creativity. It can also put a lot of people out of work, but I feel that if it's developed responsibly, then I think that there's a huge amount of opportunity there.
Great, excellent. So what would be your third point for Marathi entertainment?
So this is films. I feel like it's kind of obvious. Films, OTT, these are both areas which have a lot of overlap, but and they are already areas where people are doing work. But I do feel, again, like Marathi films, the industry suffers from three things. And this is not just me saying, it's not my opinion, but it's been studied. Ormax, which is the leading authority when it comes to entertainment in India. Ormax has put out a report on the Marathi industry in 2021. And it states that there are three main problems, and I agree with all of them. One is inexperienced producers. So there's probably 100 films made a year in Marathi, out of which maybe 5 or 6 will be made by a producer who's produced a Marathi film before. The rest, 92, 94 Marathi films will most likely be funded and financed by a first-time producer who's come in because they like cinema, they love it, they want to do something for their stage, they want to do something for their language, they want to work with some Marathi celebrities and get their red carpet moment. But ultimately, these producers really do suffer, and they suffer not just from their inexperience, but because of their inexperience, people do take advantage of them. They might work with directors who don't care how much money they're wasting because it's not their money that's going. They may end up partnering with a distributor who doesn't really care how many people see this film, because once they get their money back as distributors, then they don't have to worry about it anymore. Marketers also. A lot of Marathi first-time producers never produce again. Because out of these 100 films, the revenue last year for Marathi films, I think, was 160 crores. Out of which, maybe 10 films actually made up for that collection. The rest 90 films have all lost money.
God.
So it's a very hard industry to enter into, and there's a lot of people in the industry who will very happily take advantage of a first-time producer, thinking maybe it's their first opportunity to make a film as well. But entering into it without any long-term vision or idea to make multiple films, with the understanding that it's very likely they will lose money on their first film, and they will learn as they go, and they need to be prepared to do multiple films to get the experience they need to, properly execute it. It's not just about the quality of the film at the end of the day.
Got it.
It's about how you market it. It's about how you distribute it. Do people even know that this film exists? And are you releasing next to a Salman Khan movie on Eid, or a Shah Rukh Khan movie, on Diwali?
Yeah, got it.
Or Amir Khan in Christmas? You can't make these mistakes.
Got it.
These are the kind of mistakes that people make without the experience.
Got it.
Number two is the marketing. Marketing patterns have been the same almost for like 20 years in Marathi. Now there is more effort going towards digital marketing, but the pattern of Marathi film marketing has been relatively static. You get your artists together, you do your press interviews, you call all the people at one place, the press come in, they say hi, hello, goodbye. You get your hoardings put up, you have your trailer play in the theaters, and then you just cross your fingers and wait. Now there are some films, and BhaDiPa helps promote a lot of Marathi films, like BhaDiPa. That film is something that we helped promote, and I'm not taking credit for it, but that film is the highest grosser this year. They earned 90 crores in the box office globally, and 72 in India. So that film was extremely successful. I think because Geo did a great job of marketing it, but it's still not a standard practice to do a good job with the marketing and the packaging of Marathi films. The last problem which plagues the Marathi film industry is the star system. This Marathi star system right now is relatively old. There's, I think, in the Ormax report, they did a study and calculated the average age of Marathi stars, and found that the top male Marathi stars' average age is around 50. And for women stars, it's around 42. And there's nothing wrong with having older stars, but you also need to have young stars. And right now, all the young stars who are out there in the industry, they are not necessarily being launched the way that you might look at a Hindi star or an A-lister like that. There's very few who really kind of understand how to work the star system. Like a Sai Tamankar is a great example. She has been around for a while, but she stays relevant. She's seen everywhere. She's got her PR, her Instagram, everything is perfectly managed. What films she chooses to do are also very carefully selected. But I feel like there's not a lot of people, young people today, who have that sensibility. And I think for a lot of young people, it's just easier to become famous on Instagram or YouTube than it is to break into the Marathi film industry. So the Marathi film industry is very, very hard to enter. And there's a lot of these older stars are not really willing to give up their space. And they'll keep playing young roles. And they are going to keep getting older, but the roles they're playing are still going to be of, the husband and the wife who are just starting a family. But they might be 50 years old, but they're, just starting their first family or whatever it is. Then directly they're azoba, so there's really not much space for new people to enter the industry right now, and young producers, especially these inexperienced producers, that this kind of all plays into the whole inexperienced producer thing. An inexperienced producer is never going to throw their money behind a new name. Okay. They're ideally going to go behind one of these old as gold, classic Marathi faces who are still around. I'm very happy to work with any producer who's willing to put their work out. And the few people who have taken that risk have really seen it pay off. And I think, Artbat, Sairat, Nagaraj Sairat, perfect example. Right. He took a risk on two completely unknown actors. They weren't even actors. They were unknown people. He trained them how to act, and now they are probably two of the only new young celebrities out there in the Marathi industry.
Got it. So again, high risk, high gain. I perfectly agree. Yeah. So Paula, for the last 2 points, what would you say are your key observations about the Marathi entertainment industry?
Yeah. I'll just quickly give one sort of wrap-up summary of the film point.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the main opportunity is going to be there for somebody who is willing to overcome these three obstacles. And that is something which requires like a studio approach to filmmaking. It cannot just, and it should not ideally be one of these national level producers like a Z or somebody like this who has already so many other things to look out for. But there should be a Marathi film studio who is long-term investing in Marathi language stuff to this scale and is, getting new talent, new and exciting people in, and revamping the overall industry. I think that's a huge opportunity which nobody's been taking on yet.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah, so my last 2 points are music. I feel like music is a huge opportunity right now in Marathi because you have this entire audience who is consuming international quality of music, and they also want to consume something in their own mother tongue. There has been a huge opportunity, and whatever we've seen in terms of the Punjabi hip-hop scene is something that could happen in any language, anywhere in the world. We've seen this with K-pop as well. K-pop, Korea has a Korean-speaking audience size of, I think, only 57 million people.
Wow.
So Marathi-speaking audience is more than double that.
Got it.
And we don't have a Marathi pop music scene. It's all Marathi film music. Mm-hmm. And there's not been any sort of infrastructure developed to support new kinds of Marathi music. There's a huge underground Marathi hip-hop scene, which people are not investing in. There's some incredible talent who's coming out of it and transitioning to Hindi or English because that's the only place where they're gonna end up making any kind of a living from their art. So if we could give them, as an audience, as a producer, if we can give them a platform in Marathi, then I think that we could really see a huge boom in the music industry. And that also kind of leads me into my last point, which is live events. Maharashtrians, whether it be theater, whether it be concerts, live events have always been a integral part to like the Marathi cultural experience, whether it be like an all-night concert or a Diwali Pahat. There's so many ways that Maharashtrians like to consume entertainment live. But again, this goes like into so many different spaces, but the young Marathi population, they don't just want classical music. They want to listen to their, international artists. They want to hear newer stuff in the Marathi language. There's new forms of live entertainment which have, come from abroad or other parts of India and are becoming popular in Marathi, like stand-up comedy, like improv. These are forms of live entertainment that people in the Marathi space haven't seen enough of. And while we have gotten our feet wet with stand-up comedy, there's still so much that can be done in the live event space. Wow. There's no reason why we can't, NH7 is one of the most popular music festivals in India, apart from like a sunburn or magnetic fields. But NH7 mainly happens in Pune, and people travel from all over. From Pune, from Mumbai, people travel to Pune for NH7. They've all come to this city, which is not a Hindi-speaking city, it's a Marathi-speaking city. And they come in and they consume international artists. Now, if you have a young population in Pune, which you do, is, one of the college capitals of India, why can't we have, a great festival like this in the Marathi language? And that's something that we're currently working on doing. And, by the time this podcast is out, I hope that will already be live and people can book their tickets.
Wow,
but
that's great.
There's so much stuff, and it shouldn't just be like your traditional mela, but we have to bring this whatever high quality entertainment people are getting in other languages. We need to find ways to provide that in Marathi, because if you can have that same quality in your mother tongue, there's no reason why you won't spend the money.
Got it. Excellent. I think many of the things, I'm sure as fans, we should kind of get some content very soon. Like you mentioned, I look forward to the BhaDiPa live events and music. So I think I can see some interesting stuff going on. That's great. Thank you, Paula. This really gives a great perspective. And thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in. Do subscribe, share, and like the podcast. Bye for now. Talk to you soon.